I was sent to a sinister psychiatric hospital. In each room, they put up a list of strange rules. My mind flashed back to the medical cart in the hallway with bloody scalpels and surgical instruments littered over the top of it. A long, white arm reached around the corner of the door. Breathing hard, I put my head down and sprinted straight for the medical cart. It was so close, maybe only 20 feet away, but at the time, that 20 feet seemed like 20 miles. I heard a choked gasp as the unknown creature lunged forward, wrapping its cold, pale arms around my neck. I glimpsed the deep, suppurating sores eaten into the flesh, the way the bones poked out through the tips of the fingers. Maggots writhed in black, necrotic gashes dug into its skin. I saw long, black hair fall over my vision and smelled the odor of rotten tomatoes and decaying meat. And though this happened a few days ago and I did end up escaping that wretched place, sometimes I think I still smell that fetid odor in the air and my heart freezes. Dax. It hissed in my ear as it wrapped its freezing hands around my neck. Give me your warmth. I tried throwing the thing off as it squeezed, cutting my breath off. In panic, I thrashed my arms, slowly pulling the corpse towards the medical cart. I tried reaching back and gouging out its eyes, but my fingers just kept sliding off the dead, loose flesh. Further down the hall, I saw 3 more pale, white figures, limping slowly towards the commotion like moths drawn to a flame. I got a good look at them, realizing they had once been women with long, black hair. Now they looked like the Walking Dead. Deep, black gashes ran through their skin. Garish autopsy stitches ran up and down their chests. They had on light green hospital gowns stained with a rainbow of fluids that I couldn't even try to identify, though a lot of it was clearly blood. Their eyes had taken on a filmy, faded look. Their plodding, limping steps brought them incrementally closer as their eyes twitched to the left and right. I was still too far from the cart, and I knew I had lost. My vision started to turn black as the fingers tightened, fingers whose skin was falling off. The sharp claws of bone dug into my neck. I would have screamed, but I had no air. Then something heavy and fast hit us, and we both went flying. The fingers flew off my neck. I looked up, seeing a giant man with a dark, cross-eyed stare. He was breathing hard, his chest heaving as he looked down at the pale, undead woman who had tried to strangle me. I saw he was wearing the garb of a patient at a psych ward, a white t-shirt and khaki pants with slippers. I looked down, realizing I was wearing the same outfit. Someone must have changed my clothes while I was unconscious. With a lunatic gleam on his face, he stared down at me and the undead abomination. He was holding a gleaming buck knife soaked with fresh blood. He ran forward. I screamed. But he didn't attack me. With a crunching sound, he brought the knife down through the undead woman's milky left eye. It pierced deep into her skull with a soft cracking of bone and the sound of spurting blood. Her legs kicked and twisted for a couple moments as she writhed on the filthy, gray floor. Pieces of broken glass and the tips of used needles dug into her loose, white flesh. Black blood poured out of the wounds, a waterfall of it gushing from her head. The man reached down, pulling his knife out with a sickening, sucking sound. He put out one giant, calloused hand toward me and I quickly grabbed it. With strength like an ox, he ripped me up off the ground. "We need to get out of here," he said in a low, flat monotone. He pushed me forward, down the hallway in the opposite direction from the rest of the undead women, who were now only a couple steps away. Run. Even though my head was pounding and I was terrified and confused, I sprinted for my life. The large man was faster than me, and I ended up following him down the hallway. It split to the left and right, but he seemed to know where he was going. He veered to the left and pushed open a cracked door around the corner whose sign read janitorial closet. After ushering me inside, he slammed it shut and turned the deadbolt. We found ourselves in total darkness, until he pulled on a string hanging next to a bare, incandescent bulb. Its light covered the small closet in a dim, yellow glow. The man extended his left hand toward me. I shook it, wincing as his iron grip crushed the bones in my palm. "I'm Freddy," he said in his slow, plodding way. One of his eyes stared at the wall while the other looked at me. His right hand still gripped the knife tightly. The blood dripping off the point of the blade made soft, repetitive, tapping sounds as they smacked against the ground. "You must have a death wish leaving your door open like that." "I'm Dax. And I just got here. I had no idea those things would be in the hallways, peeking around corners. I heard something sharp being dragged lightly against the other side of the door. I could imagine those horrific, undead women dragging their rotted, claw-like fingers over the surface of the battered wood only a few inches away. I thought I could hear the faintest trace of a gurgling breath, and I shuddered. So I guess those rules are real?" Freddy's face darkened like an approaching thundercloud as I brought up the list of rules. He nodded grimly. "They are as real and as serious as death," he said. "I don't know who put them up, but they're the only reason I've stayed alive this long. They're in every patient room." "How did you get here?" I told Freddy about the catatonic state I had gotten trapped in, the land of eternal sunshine and the shadow people, the electroconvulsive therapy I had seen my own body subjected to and, finally, waking up here. "There was a lady in my town. She had real bad mental problems." "Real bad," he said, shaking his head. "She used to get catatonia, too. We had a few statues and wells downtown. It was just a small town, but what town doesn't have a few statues, right?" I nodded. Well, the lady used to walk over, slowly and confusedly, almost like a robot that doesn't know how to use its legs. Once she got near a statue, she would freeze. Sometimes she would have one arm bent upwards at a 90-degree angle, or she would be posed like the Statue of Liberty. He started giggling. And she would just stay like that forever, if you let her. I mean, until she died or collapsed or whatever, obviously. But someone would have to come and get her. They'd have a couple strong guys come and pick her up and put her in the back of a car. When they carried her out, it looked like they were carrying out an actual statue. She would be stiff and rigid as a mannequin. And sometimes, my family would drive through downtown, and she'd be out there, stiff as a statue, and my daddy would say, "Ah, damn it, there's old Becky again, doing her rigor mortis routine." And I would laugh, but deep inside, a piece of me also cried, because even though it was kind of funny to me back then, even as a kid, I knew something was deeply wrong and disturbing about the whole thing. I mean, she would literally stand there until she froze to death if someone didn't come grab her. I nodded, feeling suddenly very tired. "Is there any food or water around here?" "My head is pounding," I said, grabbing my forehead and rubbing rhythmically in circles to try to relieve the horrific migraine pulsating hot agony in time with my heart. "Well, there's the cafeteria on the ground floor, but we'd have to go through the stairwell. You're on the 3rd floor right now, you see. And it's no big deal, really, but..." I remembered the rules and smiled. "But we need to feed some eldritch beast with raw meat, right?" I asked, giving him a half smile. He nodded. He reached into his pocket and pulled out another bloodstained folding knife, handing it over to me handle first. "We can just cut a chunk out of that corpse in the hallway," he responded blankly, not showing a shred of emotion as he talked about feeding human meat to the stairway master. "He's not so bad, really. Or it, I guess, because I'm not even sure if those things have males and females." "What does that mean?" I asked, my curiosity mixing with a sense of dread. He just shook his head. "You'll see in a minute, won't you? Come on, let's go get some water. I could use a drink, too, and you don't want to try drinking out of the sinks in the bathrooms. Last time I did that, they started gushing warm, salty blood and I nearly threw up. God, it tasted foul." He wrinkled his face as if the memory of that experience still left a nasty taste in his mouth. "Thanks for the tip," I said as he unlocked the door and we went out into the hallway and back into danger.